Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to modify this Iron Man Model 1 Marvel Legends action figure, or otherwise also known as First Appearance Iron Man. As usual, please like, share, comment, subscribe, or even hit the super thanks button. I do appreciate all engagement on my channel. So I watched the Unparalleled Universe review of this action figure, and for the most part I agree with his assessment. The figure is well sculpted, possibly close to completely nailing that Model 1 likeness and sculpting, though I do think his head is a little small. Now for paint, it is otherwise minimal, and I'm not too happy about that, especially when you can see all the swirly bits in the plastic. However, the nature of this plastic that Hasbro has chosen does help it shine in the light, and has that little bit of luster even without that paint application. Engineering is also decent, and we have a lot of that standard Marvel Legends articulation all over that body, but more importantly, his torso is kept intact without any cuts in the middle, and the ball joint at the waist gives you that side-to-side rotation and also tilting forward, backward, and sideways. However, as part of that review, I also agree that while the backward range is decent or even perhaps more than enough, that forward range is pretty lacking. And as we know, we do need that forward range to get figures into deeper and more convincing action stances. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do exactly that. There are a couple of challenges with this figure, so I'm not able to take it apart at the torso like a lot of other action figures, even other armors from Iron Man. And that's because this upper torso and his crotch piece are both made from that hard plastic, and heating it up won't necessarily soften or let you pull them apart. So I've found that the softer plastics on this figure are the belt and his legs, even in those hip joints. So heating up this figure, I'm going to pop off those legs and the belt, and then we'll see exactly how much space there is at his waist joint to remove some of that plastic. So over here I have the Model 1 taken apart. I heated up the soft plastics on the leg joints as well as those for the belt. So these hip joints are fairly easy enough to pop off those ball joints first, and then later you just slide the belt off. And because the legs are not there, it's easier to take this belt piece off entirely. I'll do a short video for the behind the scenes and you can see exactly how I took it off. So with the belt off, we have a clearer look at how that waist ball joint works. And we see, bending it forward, that there's some interference between that sculpt and the ball joint. Now also having the belt off gives us access to this rim. So I'll be removing plastic from the front of that rim. I've already marked out in pencil how much I think I'm going to remove, but let's see if I completely remove that much material. Now also having a closer look at the ball joint sideways. The Mark 1 gets some sideways tilt, but we can also see how we can improve that range by removing some plastic on that part of the ball joint as well. So I'll also be removing a little bit of plastic over here as well to see how much that improves. So I took a Dremel or a rotary tool and ground off that much from the front of that waist ball joint. And also while working on it, I went and also ground down some of the material from the side of that waist ball joint as well. So hopefully this gives it a little bit more of that sideways tilt, and definitely also much more range bending forward. So I heated up the belt as well as those legs and managed to pop them on. First the belt, then those legs. And I also want to mention that besides removing plastic off that outer rim on that upper torso, I also did remove a little bit of plastic close to the ball joint inside that upper torso. You can see more of that in the short video that I'm going to upload after this. So this is what he looks like all put back together, and you can see that the modifications do not affect the aesthetics of the figure. So he does get a little bit of improvement in the bending of the waist and the torso sideways, but more importantly, he gets way more range bending forward in the ab crunch. And although the sculpt starts to look a little gappy sideways, you can't deny that the extra range and movement definitely benefits this figure overall. And I'll show you how those benefits can be reaped in a couple of poses. And what's great about this modification is once you have him completely bent forward to his maximum range, you only see just that little hint of a small gap from the back of the figure. So trying out the first pose with Iron Man Mark 1, he looks way more convincing and more committed in a deeper action stance. So the additional range in his torso makes the figure look more dynamic and believable in some of those action poses. I don't think he was ever drawn or depicted with a superhero landing in this armor. However, now with the additional articulation in his torso, he definitely is able to pull it off much more convincingly, especially when you consider he's in this rather bulky and chunky armor. And finally, I also want to show off the flight pose with Iron Man blasting off into action. So of course he can already achieve this backward range with the default articulation. But I have to level up and show you guys that this particular simple modification does expose a little bit of the gap in the front of the torso when he's arched all the way back into his flight pose. So while this looks pretty iconic, you can still achieve this flight pose with the torso articulation and only have a slight trade-off of that tiny little gap showing off. And you're probably not going to be focusing your attention in the posing or photographs in that small gap on the front of his torso anyway. So this to me is a pretty good small trade-off to get an extra articulation in Iron Man Mark 1. So I hope you guys found this video useful and you know exactly how to modify that torso ball joint on this Iron Man to get more range out of him. I think he definitely benefits from the additional range, looking more convincing in action poses. And I can say I can definitely get more fun out of posing this action figure. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, subscribe to my channel or even hit the super thanks button. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.